This particular video I'm making is pertaining to the Black Slave Army in Morocco. Most people don't know about a Black Slave Army. Tens of thousands of enslaved Africans were forced to fight in the Moroccan army. A lot of people don't know about that. So we're gonna go over a book that was written by a captive in that time. The book author is Thomas Pellow. He was an Englishman. This English dude got caught off of the coast of Portugal by a Moroccan ship and ended up being a captive at 11 years old. And he was a captive for about 23 years. And his story is crazy. He talks about his experiences. And in this book, he talks about the Black Slave Army. He talks about how they were recruited. He was in there for 23 years. He had to convert to Islam because he was a Christian. And yes, they was enslaving white folks too back then, especially on that Barbary coast. So at 11 years old, he was sailing with his uncle and got caught up. You know, he got caught up just like everybody else did. But he wrote a book 23 years after his enslavement. And I want to go over a little bit about that book. And I'm only going to cover 2 pages out that book. That book is a long book, but these 2 pages out there really highlight what the slave army was about, what the Black Slave Army was about. A lot of us don't know that there was a slave army that was like tens of thousands strong. So I want to go over it during the first account primary. So the book that I'm going to be putting on here, I'm going to put this on here for y'all. It is, this is his book, The Adventures of Thomas Pellow, right? The Mariner. His 23 years, 23 fucking years, 23 years in captivity among the Moors. So make sure you guys get your popcorn. We're just going to flip to these pages. Before I get started, though, I want to talk about North Africa. A lot of people think North Africa was Black. It wasn't. A lot of people think the Moors were Black. They weren't. Okay, so just so we're clear. And in this book, he talks about that. He talks about who the Moors really are in the eyes of this white man. So the leader or the Sultan of that time was a name by Moulay Ismail, if I'm pronouncing that right. This dude right here. Okay, so when the 11-year-old boy, the 11-year-old English boy, got captured off of the coast of Portugal, he ended up in this man's empire right here. This guy name again is Moulay Ismail. I mess up some of these names and stuff like that, so forgive me. But anyway, the young white boy, because he was 11 years old when the white boy got caught up into this time. Okay, so when he gets there, he sees all types of crazy shit. All right, he sees what's really going down in the Islamic world. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that to you guys' attention. Okay, so I'm not going to be here that long. I'm gonna just basically go over 2 pages in the book. Again, if you're looking for this book, this is the book. It's The Adventures of Thomas Pellow. He's a mariner. He was in captivity for about 23 years. That's a long goddamn time to be caught up in something. But, you know, he wrote about it, and I'm going to talk about it with you. Now, when he got there, the leader of the empire was this guy. This dude was crazy as shit. Okay, he was crazy. He was doing all types of crazy things. But I'm going to turn to page 141 out of this book. You can get this on a PDF. Like I said, look at this book. Look at page 141 and 142, because that's the pages that I'm referencing. Okay, and like, again, this book is written firsthand accounts. He was there. He saw all of this shit go down. So I'm gonna go to page 141, and he talks about how he produces this Black slave army. And I thought this was very telling when I was reading it. Okay, now on page 141, it says the manner in his eating did not differ from other from ordinary Moors. So this is the captive looking at the emperor eating and stuff like that, just kind of seeing the lifestyle. and he's noticing that he's no different than the ordinary Moor. It says his other traveling utensils were 2 or 3 guns, a sword, or 2 lances, because one broke once as he was murdering. So this dude was a fierce mass murdering cat. Okay. The next line reads, these were all carried by his lusty follows. His boys carried short Brazil sticks, knotted cords for whipping, a change of clothes. Now they had to carry a change of clothes. Why did they have to carry a change of clothes? Because when they're bloodied up, they need to change them. This is what type of time they was on over there with these captives and stuff, right? So it says they carried a change of clothes, a hatchet, 2 of which he took in a Portuguese ship. And the first time they were brought to him, he killed the Negro without any provocation to try it, to see if it was good. So this is what type of dude he was. All right. He walked around just, crazy as hell. This English man is kind of basically telling the story. The next line on here, it says, thus he took care to lay the foundation. Hold up, I'm sorry. I'm going to read because I don't have that part highlighted. I'm sorry. I didn't highlight that part. So I'm gonna just keep reading past that. It says, although the nations of his dominion are white. So he's basically saying, this white man is saying, hey, the natives are all light-skinned people. They're not black natives here. These aren't black Moors. I just want to kind of convey that to you. It says, although the nation of his dominion are whites, yet they are not so much esteemed by him as the blacks and the copper colored, to whom he commits the guard of his person, and was so fond of their breed that he took care to mix them himself. So this is slave breeding that the Englishman is talking about. All right. He's witnessing the development of a slave breeding army in Morocco, firsthand account. It says, thus he took care to lay the foundation of his nurseries, of his tawny nurseries, to supply his palace as he wanted, into which they were admitted very young. These are young boys and girls snatched up and breeded to be put in some type of army to fight for the Sultan in Morocco. Okay. It says, I'm gonna read it again. Thus, he took care to lay the foundation of his tawny nurseries, to supply his palace as he wanted, into which they were admitted very young, and taught to worship and obey the successor of their prophet, and being nursed in blood from their infancy, right? Becoming the executioners and the ministers of their wrath, who terrible commands they put in execution with as much zeal and fury as if it had been receiving immediately from heaven. So that's the type of power that this Sultan had over these poor black souls that was snatched very young. They were forced to breed, and their children were put in a slave army. I don't think you guys understand how fucked up this is. This man actually, and if you read more, this dude actually had slave towns dedicated for it. He would go to other tribal communities that was indigenously black, right? Capture them, put them into enslavement, right? And then have a town set for them. So these kids will be raised into this town, and he would just pick whoever he wanted to serve for him or fight for him in the army. It's crazy stuff. Definitely a slave army. That's what we're talking about. People don't really know too much about this, but this Englishman was caught up in the middle of all of this shit. Oh, of course, I got this thing too small. Why the hell? All right, this is on page 42. Hang on, let me see if I can. I got to read it from a different vantage point because I can't see that shit. I got these thick glasses on, y'all. Okay, this is page 42. Same book. All right, same story. The same English captive telling his story about what he's seeing. He's seeing the leader of the Moroccan army, which is Moulay, what's his name? Moulay Ismail. He is basically recruiting his own army. This was a cheap way of producing soldiers. He didn't have to. The more you take over somebody else's community, you got to worry about those people rebelling at some point. They don't forget. But if you're breeding your own army, they're loyal. What up, Sean? Yeah, Ishmael. Okay, I'm glad I'm saying it right. So you don't like, this is crazy. So I'm like, when I read it, was like, wow. But I'm gonna read page 42. All right. It says, this is the highlighted part I got. It says they were so ready to murder and destroy even while young. These are young kids. You dig what I'm saying? Being trained to fight. Okay. He said that they were so ready to murder and destroy even while young that the al-Qaidas, these are the high-ranking officials, not to be confused with black people. Okay, the al-Qaidas were certain officers who might have had a little bit of rank, but they weren't the sultan and stuff. It put fear and tremble at the very sight of them. It says the emperor seemed to take a great deal of pleasure and place so much of his safety in them, right? For they surrounded him almost everywhere he was at. Okay, black soldiers, black army recruited from a nursery, y'all, from a slave army breeding nursery. Okay, it says they are of, let me make sure I'm reading this right. They are of all ranks and degrees. Some were the sons of his chief al-Qaidas. So these high-ranking officers would go in these little black towns, impregnate some women, and sometimes their sons and daughters will be used in the service too, depending on how special they felt like they were. Crazy. All right. It says they all ranks. Some were the sons of the chief al-Qaidas, others picked up by chance or taken from a large Negro town, joining the Meknes, which the emperor had filled with families of blacks and 20s for his use. He filled, y'all don't understand how does Islamic shit work? We was the Moors. What happened to that? We was the Moors. They are enslaving your black ass over here in Morocco. That's what they're doing. This dude right here had a slave breeding town for the sole purpose, right? For the sole purpose to create a black slave army. It's crazy. So of course these kids are gonna, so you know, if that's all these kids got to survive, that's fucking sad. But you know, in Islam, they don't give a fuck because we're pagans, right? We're non-believers and shit like that. Y'all keep on thinking we the Moors. All right, second line. It says some who had relations that were able were fed, clothed, and logged by them. Others who had not were logged in outskirts of the palace in great rooms where they're pigged in hundreds to two. So basically, they had these little stables for them. Okay, they basically, it was a breeding camp. He pigged them together by the twos and threes of hundreds. Okay. They wore only a short and small coat without sleeves, which did not reach to their knees. Their heads were shaved and always exposed to the sun, for he affected to breathe them hard. This is crazy. A slave breeding camp, y'all, in Morocco. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. Third line. He beat them in a cruelest manner imaginable. This is the part that got me fucked up. He beat them, kids. Anybody that showed any resistance to this bullshit was going to catch the sword or get beaten. He beat them in the cruelest manner imaginable to try if they were hard. He basically saying, if you can't take this, you soft type shit. You know how it is. You know what we say sometimes, you soft, shit like that. This is crazy. This is crazy. Sometimes you should see 40 or 50 of them sparkling in their bloods. Beat so bad, they're in a pool of blood now. He said there's about 40 or 50 of them in their own blood. None of them daring to raise till he left the place where they were laying. Beat them so bad they couldn't get up, soaking in their own blood. This is the slave army that I'm talking about. Soaking, right? It says if they were what did I say? If I'm reading that right, discounted it and out of heart at his uses, they were of bastard breed and must turn out of his service. That's how he rode. This is the black slave army. This is all written by somebody that was in the camp. Okay. Thomas Pellow. That's what I'm reading. Anybody want to know what I'm reading? I'm reading page 141 and 142 out of this book. White man got caught up on the coast of Portugal one time. And if you guys want to know what year that was, let me see if I can find it. I think this was around, when the hell was this? Around hang on, I'm trying to find a year so we can get. Now the slave army was already there, but this dude ended up being there. He was captured in 1715. That's when he was captured. So he got caught up on a boat with his uncle, and they basically kept this 11-year-old child for 23 years. He saw that shit, and he had to fight, and he had to get down and lay down too. But that's when you see these images, right? A lot of people see these images and say, we the Moors. We're the Moors. Look at this picture. Look at us. That ain't us, dog. It's not the type of, images that you think in your mind. You know, a lot of people say, we the Moors. This is basically the uniforms that they had to wear. You see these images when you look at Black Slave Army of Morocco. That's what you're going to see. Type it in. The Black Guard. Okay. Another pic. You see this pic. Look at all the brothers around him. Remember what the book said? All the Negroes was around the dude. All of the Negroes was around. Loyal as hell. Raised to be warriors around him. So the next time we see images like this, we need to wake up and investigate exactly the historical content. I've seen a lot of brothers on TikTok saying, yo, we the Moors, and it's based off this pic. People don't know that this is Ishmael, right? The Ishmael who had a black slave army by the tens of thousands. And you see the brothers around him. All right. Now, the black slave army ain't what it used to be, but you still see images of it today. That's what you see today. Images of it. All right. We're not the Moors. The Moors were enslaving black people, whether y'all know it or not. As soon as Prince Henry came to West Africa, he came in contact with the Moors, and he learned everything about enslaving Africans from the Moors. They told him how to do it. That's what happened. Ishmael, y'all. All right, just to recap. We got the adventures of Thomas Pellow. He was caught. He was a white Englishman caught on the coast of Portugal about 1715. He was taken to Morocco. he was introduced to this big slave encampment of Negroes, right? That's being bred. He talks about this on page 141 and 142 for those who would like to study. Make sure you get this PDF and you'll see what I'm talking about. So next time you see images like this, you'll be like, hold up, man. Something ain't right. Make sure you're looking at the right thing. Make sure you understand what's going on behind this image. Whenever you have free time, type up Black Army Guard of Morocco, and you're going to come up with this image. It's going to tell you all about it. Okay. Don't be caught up out there believing in shit that is not true. All right. We're not the Moors. The Moors was enslaving Negroes left and right. But you see these images, you see brothers will put this images on their profile and shit, not knowing what's going on. It's crazy. But I ain't gonna stay on long. Y'all know how I do. As far as the debate, I don't know. I gotta get up with the fellas. Somebody message me and let me know. There's supposed to be a debate between Shaka and Red. I don't know. Y'all get up with me. I don't mind. I'll be here. I think it's gonna be 7 o'clock Eastern. That's if it happened at all. But make sure y'all stay tuned and make sure you check out the other debates that we had. Sultan had a debate. Y'all need to check that out. And our brother Savage had a debate. You need to check those out. Make sure you go click the live to look at those. All right. And look at all of the other debates and stuff. If you're new to the channel and if you like history, culture, and greatness, you're in the right spot. If you hate information, disinformation, and shit like that, you're in the right spot. You don't got to worry about it over here. All right. So with that being said, I am going to close out. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I appreciate your time too. I really do. But get up with me about that debate. And if we have it, I'll be here for it. I'll host it and all of that. All right. Peace. I'm out.